Good evening. This is the Raleigh Finance Committee meeting of September 23rd, 2014. The time is 7:22. And call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is to review the warrant articles. I don't know if we have
We don't have any.
to review.
Because the warrant just
And-
closed yesterday, Mr. Chairman, so
Right.
the warrant hasn't even been reviewed by the selectmen yet.
Okay.
So there will- but what we would like to do is, if we could just use the opportunity, if I could just describe some of, I think, of the significant articles that have been submitted.
Sure.
That that the selectmen will be reviewing next week, and subsequently the finance committee at your meeting next week. We do have to fund the provisions of the police union contract. So if you recall, we had an article at the special town meeting to transfer the balance of the collective bargaining reserve in fiscal 14 to an article because we were closing the, and on finishing up the negotiations on that, and the MOA was not signed till after the budget was set. We additionally had a collective bargaining reserve line set in fiscal 15. So we are calculating that amount out, and it appears we actually may need a little bit more than what was appropriated in fiscal 15. So we're working on that. That's one that the selectmen are legally obligated to present to town meeting.
Right.
Funding of collective bargaining agreements. We also may have an adjustment to the North Shore Vocational Technical School assessment. The town of Rowley students are eligible to attend the Essex Agricultural School, which has now been merged into North Shore Vocational Technical School. We're not a member of that. We're part of the Whittier Regional. We had always been charged a cherry sheet assessment to pay for the cost of having Raleigh students attend Essex Agricultural Institute, but that's no longer happening. We actually have an assessment in the budget, and we were given a very preliminary assessment, then we were given a revised tentative assessment, and so we were short about $3,600, so we're going to have an adjustment for that of the special. These are some housekeeping things. We also will be looking at an article to have money appropriated for the library. There are sprinkler heads that need to be tested every 10 years. The 10-year mark is up, and the library director has been informed by the sprinkler company, and it's been confirmed by the fire chief, that they need to be tested, so we will need $5,000 for that. The cemetery commissioners have presented a request for funding for a new door at the cemetery building and some masonry work around that. Apparently that has to do with the ability of their new tractor, which they purchased over the summer under our capital borrowing account that was appropriated at the annual town meeting, at the special town meeting in May. That's apparently it doesn't fit in appropriately, and some adjustments actually have to be made to get it in and out of there.
Right.
So they're looking to modify some of the entryway on the door to get that in there. The harbor master has submitted articles. He's going to be discussing this with the selectmen next week regarding replacing and repairing sections of the dock. We do have a $15,000 appropriation that's part of year one in the capital budget for some work. So he'll be discussing the whole needs of that department with them on Monday evening.
The cemetery's coming in to see us next week
Yeah.
too, because we have some concerns that we're gonna try and hold off on. We're short of money. We're
Right.
running short. Larry was here today with the fiscal team, going through these articles, and it's early in the year to be starting to do a lot of transfers of money to cover some of these things, so that we'll look at it, hopefully putting off the cemetery building changes and at least part of the harbor master stuff, because we just, at this point, we'd rather wait until spring and put them in as part of the capital budget requests rather than dealing with them in a line item in the budget because of the money figure.
Can they get the tractor in?
Yeah, but I guess it's real tight, and they've been parking it over to the highway barn, and they can probably continue to do that. So we're gonna discuss that with them and
Yeah.
see if we can work out a compromise. So it's iffy on both those two departments, whether we'll have an article for the meeting or not. That'll be determined next week, at the next selectmen's meeting.
And then of other items of significance on the warrant will be, Dave Peterson will be attending Thursday evening's Community Preservation Committee meeting to request redirecting the balance of the Bradstreet baseball field funds that are set aside in that article for the development of a Little League field at Pine Grove School and the creation of soccer fields at Ayers Park. And I'm going to let Dave chime in on the reasons why we're looking to do that, because the Bradstreet baseball field land is not suitable after
Yeah, we
number
might
of tests.
we might have talked about it briefly
Right.
I think we
before,
have
but
talked about
Right.
it, yeah.
basically, we've got about 220,000 left to develop a baseball field at Bradstreet. As a result of the engineer going in and looking at the property, which is rough, where the field would go, the water table's real high, the soils are real bad. So what we would basically be looking at is requesting, if we were gonna build the field there, probably somewhere between 200 and 250,000 additional dollars to put in drainage systems and drain the water away, put in proper soil that can grow grass. And so myself and Bob Murray and the town administrator and Tim Southall from the rec committee have been meeting, and we've decided that that's not economically feasible. We shouldn't be doing it. So instead, what we're looking at and what we've kind of agreed upon is we're gonna take, there's enough space behind the Pine Grove School to put a new baseball field. And since it's already good land and minimal, there's good grass there, hopefully it'll be a reasonable cost to develop the baseball field there, but by building the baseball field there, we're losing a full-size soccer field. So we're looking at taking, if you go up and look at where the police station is in Ayers Park, and there's Smith Lane on the right-hand side of the police station, we're looking to change a piece of that land into recreational purposes. It's flat, wooded at this point, but develop a full-size soccer field, and there may be room there to put a skateboard park and a tennis court or a basketball court or something like that. So we're looking to take that 220 away from the Bradstreet appropriation and put it into the development of these other two areas for fields, because we're desperately in need of more playing space. And we've got to do it, and that seems to be the most economical way to do it, and I think we can be the fastest way to get the fields online. Once we develop the baseball field, we'll be able to turn the current Little League field, which they call, Haley Field, I guess.
Yeah.
Is that Haley Field? We'll be able to turn that back to the water department, because that won't be developed, that'll be abandoned, it's right by the well site there, so the water department will get that back as strictly open area for the well site.
If they put all those facilities in, Dave, at Ayers Park, will there be enough sufficient parking?
Well, the good part about that is we went out and actually, there's an area out in back that the town owns, but behind the current baseball fields, over to the left behind Circuit Drive, where we could put we could probably fit a Little League field in there. But the idea in putting the Little League field down behind the Pine Grove School is anybody that goes by there during the Little League season knows that parking lot is jammed full of cars. So by putting a soccer field up there, the main use of the soccer field is at a different time of the year than the baseball field. And that way, the Little League people who now go to Haley Field would be coming down Pine Grove. So, and at the same time we do this, where there's some areas up there that we can level out and create some more parking, because there is a parking problem there.
Right.
And if ultimately we expand the police station and build a fire station there, it's gonna even take a little more of the parking, so that we can probably build some more parking out in back of the fields in that area that we were looking at. So what we wanna do is really if we get the money transferred to that account, we'll get an engineer to go up and take a look at it and lay out what we need to do and how we need to do it, and then go ahead and hopefully construct it within a year.
Okay.
How much you think it would cost to develop the other land where you said it's wooded now, to level that and make it?
I have no idea. I mean, it's the good part about it is, I mean, it's level. You're probably gonna have to replace some fill, because you're gonna make a field out of it, so you're gonna have to bring in some loam and maybe some base stuff, but it's gonna be a lot more reasonable than trying to, You know, you're taking raw woods and making them into a field area, and that's all we have. We don't have any open field areas. Everything is developed at this point. And our problem is trying to find big enough space to be able to put a soccer field and have parking and, you know, all those other amenities that you need. And that's why that's the best location to do it. We'll know better once the engineer takes a look at it, but it's obvious that Brad Street is we're just throwing money away, a lot of money for a field that would get limited use, and it was gonna be tucked down back, which was gonna make it difficult for parents to drop their kids off, and the kids gotta run all the way down back, and we all know how, as mothers and fathers, we don't want the little ladies and guys going too far from the parking lot when we can't see them. So this way, it'll be a much safer, and much better situation up there, and we need to close Haley Field because that's just a horrendously dangerous situation with traffic, the amount of traffic that goes through there, and to have all those kids and parents and little kids parked on 133 to watch the Little League games that they currently do is just, it's an accident waiting to happen.
Okay, any,
Yep,
The other-
if this, that's it on that one now. So
Okay.
Dave will also be discussing, we're required, under state law, when we use the Community Preservation Act funds to purchase land, we are required to have a conservation restriction on it, and Essex County Greenbelt will be holding that CR, and so we're required to give them an endowment, just as we did with the Brad Street conservation land. The Mass Autobahn has that conservation restriction, so Greenbelt is a similar land trust organization, and so we will be seeking a $15,000 from the CPA account to hold that CR for the Girl Scout land. And also, we'll be, do you want to talk about
Well, those-
the redesignated the property that that's out at Ayers Park?
Yeah, there'll be one article,
It's not a money article, but it's more of a legal.
There's an article that the piece of land we want to build a soccer field on is currently designated as Selectmen's Land / Water Department, and we'll be talking to the Water Department before the town meeting to get that designated as recreation only, so that there will never be any buildings built on it. It can only be used for recreational purposes, and it's almost a land swap that we're giving them back a Little League field. I'm gonna use this field for.
right,
But that'll be more of a technical article, it won't be something you guys have to deal
Right.
with. One other thing was, you guys, at your last meeting, when we transferred the 8,000 for the air conditioning system, you asked about the possibility of being reimbursed, and we did, that is, as far as I know, that's on the list of stuff to be, come up with $8,000 to reimburse your reserve fund, so it'll bring it back to 50. And that got a positive response from the fiscal team, so we hopefully will be able to do that.
okay.
And so that covers
I think that covers pretty much
the
everything.
highlights of the articles.
Other than the water.
And then we would like to introduce the new water superintendent, Mary Beth Weiser, and Chairman Roy Ricker. They wanted to meet with the FinCom, and you expressed an interest to also meet with them, and they're gonna talk about their proposed articles. We're still just working on some verbiage and language on them, but she has prepared essentially what the board voted to place on the warrant, and is on the warrant right now. So I think you have a copy in your packet.
Right,
Yes, we do.
okay. Welcome, Roy, Mary Beth. So, I guess we'll
Karen.
turn it over to you, Mary Beth, and you can talk about the articles that you're thinking or have put in or so, and
The first article that I put in was for, to appropriate $60,000 from the Water Stabilization Fund to the operating budget, line 8 maintenance, for the purpose of paving the parking lot area at the Water Admin Building at 401 Central Street. Currently, the existing conditions, they're unstable, and they're unsafe for the public as well as the water department employees. And just to avoid trip hazards as well as seasonal problems with weeds and standing water and ice. So that's the first
okay.
article.
Now, I don't know whether anybody's been there today or so, but I guess the highway department has paved some of the potholes as a stopgap measure or so, but there still needs to be work done on the place, and
The hot top is just, it's old and just cracks. You fix it here and cracks down here. And it's pretty well done.
Okay, is this something that will be able to be done this fall? No, it'll have to wait till spring.
Yes.
That's what I figured. I thought
But the
I'd check.
patching that we did today
Will
should
help.
carry us through the
Yeah,
winter,
okay.
give us time to prepare, put it out to bid, and be ready to go in the spring.
So that's $60,000 with that, that's the whole parking lot, right? Not just the front, that's the both
Sides
sides,
and
everything.
the
And
front.
it's also, we're currently have an outstanding consent order from 2012 for the Conservation Commission to comply with some, whatever went on out back there. And so there are still some outstanding issues, and it involves the grading of the back portion where we have our storage yard. So that 60,000 encompasses all of the surfaces around the entire building.
Would the old pavement be torn up and then it would be repacked and everything? We're not gonna just pave over,
No overlay. We
because
will
that
be,
wouldn't last.
they'll be
There's
pulverizing.
nothing left there.
Yeah, they'll be
Okay, I haven't
pulverizing.
seen it, okay.
They'll be pulverizing it, and then I've been told that they'll be able to reclaim what they pulverize up as a
Okay,
base,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then come back over and hot top the area that will be hot topped, and then put down
right,
the
okay,
material out back for the
okay.
drainage.
Now, did you get a rough estimate on, I mean, the 60,000, was that from?
It was a
maybe
rough estimate.
A quote?
It was a rough estimate. I do
Okay.
have, Neshoba Paving is, I should have an email from them with their quotes,
Specifics.
specific details, a breakdown. Either it's there on my computer now, or it'll be there tomorrow morning when I come in.
Okay, and if you only spend 40, then, you know, the 60 would cover that anyway. But
Exactly.
you don't think it'll be higher than 60, right?
I don't think so, but like I said, I'm not a paver, so it was just a rough estimate based on some other jobs that I had done involving paving, and, but I have the estimate coming in, and I guess I'll have to wait to see.
We'd have to put that out to bid anyway, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
It would have to
so-
go to bid, so it's kind of like just a
Yeah.
guess, it's a starting point.
Mm.
And who knows what the bid pricing will come in.
What I would suggest maybe is, if you think it's gonna be close, is to maybe put it as an option. You could do, whatever section of the parking lot you wanna do, maybe the grading in the back might be an option one out or in to your bid. And then when you get all the bids in, you can say, okay, I can do 1, 2, and 3, if it's gonna be questionable.
Like we got a bid for just out front in the circle driveway to
Yep.
driveway. That was $9,500 to rip it all out, regrade that just in front of the building.
Yep.
That was $9,500. That was $94.
Yeah, what I would suggest, you get a feeler first. If somebody says, hey, that's a $70,000 job, then I would do options. If they say it's
Mhm.
40, then you're probably pretty good to just bid it out
Okay,
straight.
thank you.
okay, any other questions on the Article 1? Okay.
And, Article 2 that I'm proposing is to see if the town will transfer the sum of $245,000 from the Water Department Stabilization Fund to the operating budget. And the breakdown for that is $150,000 to cover electrical costs, $50,000 to purchase water treatment chemicals, $21,000 for the purchase of some Paul filters, and $24,000 for an interim maintenance contract with the Paul filters. We're transferring that to line 11, which is water treatment plant, the water treatment plant portion in the budget. There was initially, for electrical costs, $67,000 that was budgeted for electrical costs. And after taking a look at some, which we have not much data available because the plant ran for a short period of time in early spring of 2014, and we've just been operating for the last 30 days. So just based upon that, and we did some quick calculations, and there wasn't going to be enough in the existing electrical line to carry us through the fiscal year. And same thing with the treatment chemicals. There wasn't enough money budgeted. I think it was $34,000 was budgeted for the treatment chemicals, and just based upon the chemicals, and the quantities that we'll be buying, you know, I recommended that we increase that. The $21,000 for the Paul filters, the only really budget number that the town received from the engineering firm was that it's a total cost of about $210,000 to replace those membrane filters. There's a life expectancy of about 10 years. So the $21,000 broken out over the several years, we should be able to have all the filters in-house. Rather than coming up with $210,000 in 10 years with one lump sum, we'll be doing it over the course of several years to get the filters that we'll have when it's time to replace them. The $24,000 for the interim maintenance of the Paul filters. Currently, the treatment plan is online, so the warranty period has begun. So that warranty period expires in April of 2015. Which means that we will have no coverage or insurance between April and then when the next fiscal year kicks in. So this is just there as a just in case. If the money doesn't get spent, it goes back where it came from. But it's very expensive, the maintenance on these filters, and that's actually will cover like 2 issues if we had to call Paul Corporation to come in. Can't say that it won't happen, but you know, it could.
Better to be prepared.
It's good to have that there.
Right.
And the other thing I wanted to mention too is that because the town wasn't provided with a dollar value for future planning for the treatment plant budget-wise, it's really going to take us a full year going through 4 seasonal changes of operating to really get a handle on electrical costs, how much chemical, because all of that goes up and down, you know, seasonally. This was just, you know, to try to get us through rather than coming up short. And then, you know, if it's, we'll have better numbers after we, you know. And each year, I anticipate that the budget will get better because we'll have more data to support what we're trying to do. Some of the numbers might go down, some of them might go up.
And
Go back,
just to back up what she's saying too, is you understand that this is not additionally appropriated money. This is money that was already appropriated. It's in their budget, so that it's not going to affect the rate. It's not going to have anything on that, and anything that she doesn't spend in any of these items,
Goes
that money
back.
will revert back to the stabilization fund again. So it's really, some of it is a safety factor based on we don't know for sure. We're making the best guesstimate that we can. At the same time, we don't want to in March run out of money for power and have a crisis, or have the Paul system break down at the end of May, and it's, like she says, it's about $12,000 a visit to have Paul come out and and take a look at that. We're running an expensive system there, that maintenance-wise, so it's critical that we have this money available, because obviously we want to do the best we can with the water for the town.
Taking it out of the stabilization fund has to be a town meeting, if I remember correctly.
Well, it's out of the water department.
I know it's the water
Yeah,
department.
that's, exactly, that's why the articles
Yeah.
are here,
Right.
so that
Yeah.
at town
Yes.
meeting, we're just looking for your support on
Yeah.
it. And everybody needs to understand that it's not additional money, or not
Yeah.
gonna add to the rates, anything like that. It's strictly a transfer within their budget, and it goes back to, anything unspent will go back into their stabilization fund, June 30th.
So how much did you say the interim maintenance of the Paul filters is for how many months, or what is that for?
Well, the existing warranty for the Paul membrane system expires in April of 2015, which means that there'll be no maintenance contract or nothing available to the water department between that and when the next fiscal year kicks in.
So for 2 months.
Yeah, 2 months.
So it normally would cost $12,000 a month then?
It's,
or-
no, it's,
If they have to come out for service, I think it's 12,000.
It only
It's
counts
just
if they
in
have to
case.
call. If they don't call anybody, that 24,000 is ours, we don't spend it. Hopefully, the plant's
Right.
in great shape, we don't call anybody, but we need to be prepared, she needs to be prepared, they need to be prepared, so that if something happens, we've got the money in the budget to, hopefully, a little bit of luck and, you know,
And
good fortune, you'll have 24,000 to put back in the stabilization
but
fund at the
just
end
to
of the
let
year.
you know, you're gonna see in the operating budget that an annual maintenance contract for those Paul filters is around $60,000.
Okay.
In addition to the 7 or 8 years that you have to replace the membrane filters for
Anytime you-
$500,000,
Anytime you have, there's a very expensive maintenance plan. Anytime you have a process like that, it's always a good idea to have, the maintenance contract would provide the water department staff with 24-hour emergency care, a call via the telephone, a technician. It involves 4 visits, quarterly visits, which I recommend at least for the first year. And then the following year, we would probably go down to 2 visits, and then in the third year, we'd be down to annual. So the maintenance cost with the Paul will unless they change their rates crazily, should go down over the next few years. But it's where this is new, and, you know, we really should have a maintenance contract. But so just to let you know, you will see about $60,000 in the budget when I present the budget for next year. That will be in there. So, but right now, this will just take us through just in case.
As far as the warranty goes, you know, I understand that there's a warranty now and it expires in April. Why wouldn't you start a maintenance program at the end of the warranty program? Even why wait till the beginning of the fiscal year?
Okay, so right now with the system, it's covered under the warranty. So if
Right.
something goes wrong, it's covered, it's paid for.
Yep.
In April, it ends. If
Yep.
something goes wrong after that, we have no coverage.
But why don't you start a maintenance program with them when the warranty ends?
Because we're not budgeted for that.
But why don't you put that in here and start your annual maintenance?
What we talked about today at the fiscal, we asked the same question today at the fiscal meeting, and what we realized was the water department and the superintendent would prefer to do the maintenance on a fiscal year basis,
Oh, I see.
rather
Yeah.
than having it overlap in 2 budgets. In other words, if we can cover that 2 months, and this is the time to cover it, because hopefully we won't spend any money, and then from then on, the expiration of the warranty or the maintenance would be July 1st of each year, so that you're not trying to straddle 2 budget years. And, you know, you got a little bit now, and then next year the budget goes up. It puts it all together, and it just makes it easier for budgeting purposes and for their records in terms of keeping track of everything, so.
Makes
It just
sense.
seems a little risky to,
Well, I don't think it is, only because it's a brand-new plant, and
for the $12,000
I'm sure that if there's any issues coming up, yeah, but I mean, will the
But
plant
it's not
only
like
be...
you're letting the warranty lapse. What you're doing,
If-
well, you're
If the
going
plant
into
was
a
12,
maintenance
if the plant was 10
contract.
years old, I would say, well, maybe we're running a little risk with a plant that's been running less than a year. It's like a new car. I mean, can you have a problem? Sure, but do you expect a problem? No. So
Oh,
you're
that's-
taking a little bit of a risk, but I think,
For a short period of
for
time.
just a short period of time, and I think, and to put that on the fiscal year basis, but for budgeting purposes and stuff like that, it just makes sense
But
to.
isn't it only the first year that it becomes a budgeting issue, like this year? After that, every year, you still have that maintenance figure
Right,
in the
yeah, it
budget
just,
every
but
year.
they want
It's only
the.
this year.
But they want it to expire at the end of the fiscal year, so that otherwise we're looking to appropriate 2 months' worth of the contract in this budget, then we're looking at
But, well,
next
isn't it
year's
an
budget
annual
doing
contract?
10 months, and then another 2 months, with a new, in other words, it's, every year, I'm sure that the maintenance contract is, even though she's gonna be doing less, you know, quarterly or semi instead of quarterly visits. We all know maintenance contracts every year go up, so you're straddling, when you start straddling budget years, it's just easier for budgeting purposes to do it.
I don't see it that way, but.
Okay.
This is just for 2 visits. This isn't a full-blown maintenance contract. This is what the Paul Corporation charges for a visit, because we have to pay for their airfare and their accommodations when they come, because if their technician is in Alaska, we have to pay to fly that technician here. They're all over the place. They service these filters and their processes, and that's how they operate. And that's not the entire, it's, what was it? It was, the maintenance contract that I saw the numbers was less than that, but then it says underneath, plus airfare and accommodations. So if the contract is $50,000 for a maintenance contract, who knows what the airfare is gonna be? Who knows what hotel rate? So you gotta carry enough money to cover those costs. So this 12,000 is what came from them as far as what we just had them come to re-energize. We paid $10,000 back in August to have the Paul Corporation come back on site to to re-energize the filters, because they had sat too long in between, getting things up and running. And so they had to come in and recondition the filters. That was $10,000 for that, and that included, that was a week long. It was accommodation and the airfare, and then we had some on-site training that they owed us from the original treatment plant contract. But this is what they've given me for a number for a site
So
visit.
how long do the filters last?
They said 10 years.
But is there a point, so if you keep on paying maintenance costs, what about year 9? You pay, if year 10 you're gonna get a new one, does it make sense to pay, maintenance costs in year 9? Maybe it's better to get a new.
By
You know, if
year
you're gonna
9,
be
we'll be
paying-
up to, we'll probably be at an annual maintenance, so, we'll be starting out the first year with 4 quarterly visits. Evaluate the system, see how it's working and things are going, and hopefully be able to back off to, semi-annual in the second year of operating the facility, and in the third year, backing down to, annual visit. This is maintenance that is performed by the vendor, that we don't have the tools and it's not what we do. We do the in-between. We do the weekly and the monthly stuff in between these service visits from the company.
Plus, maintenance does not include the price of a filter. If we replace the filters, that's additional over and above the maintenance cost.
But it
There's
could
no
be
free
with
filters
proper
given.
maintenance, that
But
they
no
could
free
last
filters
for
given.
12, 13 years.
Or
But if you're not gonna, it's like buying a car, if it's gonna ready to break down, you're gonna cut your losses and say, okay, I'll buy a new one, but I'm not gonna keep on paying maintenance costs for something that's gonna break
You're
down.
not replacing
Well,
the whole machine,
and,
you're only
uh,
replacing
well,
like
the
the oil
fil-
filter.
We,
But the filters still
we
have
do it with the
life.
computer systems, we
You
do
know,
it, all these
expect to
kinds of
see.
things. It's, if you start paying individual prices for maintenance calls, yeah, maybe you'll make out one year, but you'll more than pay out the following year.
But the machine has a life of more than 10 years. It's only the filter
It's only the
within the
filters that-
machine.
Right, that's what I was talking about, so,
Right. So the machine has a
Life, okay.
lifespan of more than 10 years. There, our Mary Beth, how many little round cylinders are there? And each one has a filter inside.
mhm. So it includes that maintenance, for beyond the filters, the other parts and everything.
You got the whole
Right,
system
the
that
whole
has to be
system.
maintained beyond
Right.
just the
Okay.
filters.
Does the contract expire April 30th or April 1st? Because if it's April 1st, it would be 3 months that we would be,
I'm not quite sure on the date, but it's somewhere in the middle.
I want to say
okay.
the 20.
Because the more time there is, there's more risk involved. That's why I was wondering if he's saying 2 months, it could actually be
I want to say
3.
it's like
Whenever they
around,
turned it
like the
on, yeah.
17th
I
or
think it was
15th,
two
but
and a
I
half
can,
months.
I can get that. It's kind of like in the middle of April, I'm pretty sure.
The other question I have, and I'm probably missing something here, so you can explain. If they're spending $21,000 for new filters, Paul filters, and you're going to spend $24,000 for interim maintenance of the Paul filters, wouldn't it be cheaper just to keep buying new filters? So what am I missing?
Okay, so the $21,000 is to actually physically purchase a filter.
Yeah,
In preparation, over the next several years, we'll be buying a filter every
oh,
year
for one filter,
One
it's
filter.
$21,000. Oh, okay.
to
I
be
get
able
it.
to change them out when the time comes.
I get
And the 24,000 is just to have
All
for
the
the 2
filters.
visits in case, nope, 2 visits.
Oh.
That's 2 visits, it's about $12,000 per visit. In the event, we have to call the Paul Corporation in to assist us with something that we just can't take care of.
Are there a lot of filters, or is it just
Yes.
like,
I
okay?
think there's 2 skids, I think there's 30 filters.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
It's an expensive system.
Yeah.
We're not talking cheap money here.
And the electrical costs, is that to run the plant for 12 hours? Is that what you're anticipating?
Yes, right now, we are currently running the plant 12 hours, but, and that's right now, and that may increase when, we're waiting for the go-ahead from the DEP, and we go to the automated mode, which will be run, the SCADA computer will assist the operators in running the plant. The plant will come on and off based upon the needs of the system, the tank level usage, and seasonal demands. So, right now, it's 12 hours, but that may go up. It could be more to 18 to 20 hours, because you've got 2 wells running through there.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay. Third article.
Okay, the third article, okay, as everyone's aware that we've got a staffing shortage in the water department, and we're trying really hard to fill the open positions. One of the things that we have a part-time secondary operator, and he is currently working 15 hours a week. So this article will allow him to work add an hour to his existing shift, 2 full 8-hour days. And also looking to fill the labor treatment operator's position as well. And that's what the $24,074 is. Looking to transfer that from line 4 in the overtime standby to line 3 water department wages.
Right, but that extra hour is the $901.59 additional.
Yes, yep.
And then the other position, which was in the budget but basically unfunded,
Yes,
is
that's
now
right.
being funded, okay,
That's
for the
right.
23,172. So that's where that 24,074 comes from.
And this money would actually probably reduce some of the costs we're paying now for Weston Sampson, their hourly rate to come out and help us out. So actually, it's probably a benefit to us
Yes,
to hire somebody as opposed to have a consultant at $80 or whatever it is an hour.
yes,
So
Yeah, it's a benefit that way, and also at this point, because of the staffing situation, the majority of their staff spends all their time at the water treatment plant, and the distribution system is getting very little attention. And when something happens in the distribution system, a water main break, or a customer complaint, or something like that, at the current staffing level, she needs to pull someone away from the plant to go take care of that. So what this position will do is allow a person to really spend full time on, for the most part, on the
On the
distribution system
distribution
issues.
side,
And I
right?
believe we're paying $80 an hour for Weston and Sampson
Something like
versus
Right.
$20, a little less than $20 an hour for this laborer's position. So it's a huge economic saving from what they're spending. And once again, it's just a transfer within the budget, so that it's going to cut out, help reduce the overtime, and give another person available to assist when they need help. This is what we've been calling for a staffing plan for a year. And this is the first time now that she's been able to develop a staffing plan. And once again, for next year's budget, we'll see how it goes, and we would anticipate there may be some other changes coming for next year's budget, but this at least gives us some bodies to cover what needs to be done at this point.
it provides for clean water.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's the most important.
But just, even though we've been calling for a staffing plan for a year, Mary Beth has only been here for like a month or whatever.
She's
So
developing,
it's, she's been developing it, and, this is it. Okay, so we've got
Yeah,
a plan.
Weston and Sampson basically was giving us what we needed to run the treatment plant, but they weren't paying a lot of attention to what it was gonna take to run the distribution system. So it's critical now that we
Right.
have to address both, and this position will allow that to happen, and get a lot of those things done, and deal with customer complaints and those kinds of issues that come up on a daily basis, as well as helps with vacation coverage and stuff like that too.
Right.
So.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Just one other thing, with the staffing here, and if you fulfill the positions that are still open, you feel comfortable that this amount of labor is sufficient to run the treatment plant and the distribution? I know it's not the optimal, but, you feel comfortable with this, that this is sufficient?
well, currently, right now, the 2 full-time employees that I have and a part-time employee, they're focusing up at the treatment plant. We cannot, that plant has to be manned, because we're running in the manual mode. It's a DEP, the DEP says that.
Right.
It's a new plant. They need to know how to operate it. They need to know how to respond to the needs of that plant. The town just spent $12 million on that plant, and I would think they'd want the people that are here to focus on that for clean drinking water. And because the part-time person's only here for the 16 hours, so the other days You know, if one person is taken away from the plant, you have somebody there operating the plant alone. So sometimes it takes two people to do some maintenance projects. They're climbing up on ladders to reach stuff. We're already at that 30-day mark where we're going to start to be doing the in-house maintenance. So on the other side of things, which, you know, we have not been, we've made some mistakes and we've had some issues not responding to customers. And we're fully responsible for that. But I'm trying to make that right.
Right.
And this person that comes in will help me do our dig safes, respond to customer complaints, go out, you know, if we have high water bills, set the data logger, not miss appointments, investigate potential leaks. We've got active leaks in the system right now that I just don't have the manpower to take care of, and that's not how I typically operate.
Right.
So, this person will allow the water department to begin to move forward with taking care of these things. And just so you know, those responsibilities I just mentioned is just a small portion of what we need to be doing as a water department to take care of the distribution system. But right now, as I'm focusing on what I'm seeing as a deficit, the others, and then down the road, as you'll see, my plans start to unfold. If it, you know, it passes with the water commissioners,
Right.
then we'll start to see that the positions start to pop up in the budget. Looking for some funding for those.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Roy, Mary Beth, thank you very much for
Thank you.
coming by.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 4, the Triton District Communications Committee meeting. And I put that on the budget,
The agenda?
agenda. There we go. Just to, I know that they were gonna discuss, I guess, the
Some stuff.
stadium or so, and I just wanted to find out about the stadium renovation and improvements.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that's the information that we got the other night.
Okay.
Pretty much, you know, we represented the board, the commission there, and you can see that Triton is proposing to do a stadium renovation project, which is, if you look on the third page there, their projected cost right now is $3.1 million to do that. It was an interesting meeting. It was members from the school committee, obviously representatives from each of the towns, and they kind of went through the need for the stadium, which I have some pictures here that they distributed of the existing conditions, and you know, it's pretty much a no-brainer that the field does need to be replaced, the bleachers, etc.
Right.
But the committee is just trying to, at this point, get Gale Associates, which is an engineering outfit that's done 90% of the stadiums in this area, to start to design and figure out exactly what the true costs are going to be for the rebuild of the stadium. There was a lot of discussion on, you know, the funding, you know, the source of where it was going to be coming from, and you can see a lot of that in the packet that you got here on page, I think it's the 4th page in there. There's an actual cost estimate broken down on everything that needed to be replaced. Both Peter and I were there, and we asked a few questions ourselves. The thing that I would like to bring back to our board is basically the aggressive schedule that they're trying to put forth to get this thing going. I think the school committee the other night voted to expend some of the money that they have in their accounts to at least hire Gale Associates to start the initial plans to put this together. But if you look on the 5th page there, you'll see that they're proposing to to finish this whole thing by September 30th of 2015. There were a lot of concerns from the various towns on, capital items and budget items that each town has. Like, for example, Raleigh has an issue with the Pine Grove School, and, our other capital needs, fire department, police
Right.
department needs. So they're trying to figure out how this would be funded. And if you look on, I think it's on, I think it's the next page. Sorry. We're going to divide it up by 3 towns.
Rental revenues.
Yeah, no, they're going to do some revenue sharing as well. Oh, it's on this page, I'm sorry, it's on page 3. Preliminary bonding, they figure that the project might be close to $3 million. Less donations from the bank. Institution for savings of $525,000, so they're going to contribute that towards the project. Less funds raised from Triton of $100,000. Less available gate receipts. They're hoping to get $175,000 from different charges that they're going to be putting to people that will use these fields. And on
Right.
the last 2 pages,
Yeah.
they have a couple different scenarios. Of scenario 1, they would be raising $97,000 a year, and then less aggressively, all the way down to scenario 4 would be $21,000, and that would be put towards the project, which would give a preliminary bonding, reduce it down to $2,335,000. And then they had different ways of appropriating that through the towns, and you can see if they divided it by equally by 3, it would be $64,166 per town. If they divided it by the FY14 foundation enrollment by town, Newbury would be paying $61,754, Raleigh would be paying $62,678,000, and Salisbury would be paying $68,068. So that hasn't been really defined as to how they plan to do that.
Right.
But, so they're gonna have a meeting in December to kind of see what Gale Associates finalizes in the next step, which will give us probably a better number as to what really this is gonna cost, because now they'll have done some preliminary work out on the fields and actually get some hard numbers that the towns will be able to look at and then decide how they wanna do that. The last page here just kind of basically shows the field. What they're proposing to do is to get rid of the bleachers, the visitor bleachers on the opposite side by the wetlands, and expand the field so that it'll accommodate more of a regulation soccer field, and the track will be more compliant to standards that not the NCAA, but the league that regulates
Yeah.
the track and
Right,
stuff like that.
okay.
They want to put the straightaway track from 6 lanes to 8 lanes, which I guess is compliant with most of the regulations now, and that's where most of the usage comes anyway. And then obviously there'd be new bleachers. If you saw the bleachers from the pictures there, they're really a hazard, and they're a safety issue, and that's really what they're trying to say, that the need to replace this whole thing. But most towns are redoing their fields. Obviously, it increases the usage and makes a better playing field for all the athletics.
Yeah. I have a question. I've looked at this, I looked at it all online and everything, and I didn't see anywhere that they're doing anything with shot put or discus.
Yeah,
Well,
I think
not on that field. They said that it would be, they can't, that would cause damage to the turf.
I understand that, so are they going to
Yeah,
redo the area that those things are in?
Well,
No,
they didn't
I
really talk about that.
I don't think so. They're staying within the confines
Yeah, they
of the
didn't-
track. I mean, there's areas there for was it pole vaulting and
Yeah.
Yeah,
different.
well, I know those go in the
Yeah.
middle of the field,
But
but
they're-
the
they're not
shot
ex-
put and the discus are behind, the shot put is behind the building,
Yeah.
the stand there, and then the discus is out in the field where they throw the discus and it hits the lacrosse
So
people.
those,
Yeah.
those need some repairs too and fixing?
They need an area that's
Yeah.
good, yeah. As you can tell, I'm a grandmother of a shot put
What's that?
discus player.
Yeah.
I've been out in those fields over and over and over
I thought it
again.
was for your personal use.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
They're not
no.
proposing to do that at
They're
this
not,
point.
they're gonna leave those as
Yeah.
they are, then.
The thing that they're trying to also do is build in some revenue for the replacement of these, the track in this field. The lifespan for the track, the surface, is usually around 7 years, and it costs somewhere between around $40,000 to replace the surface, and then the field itself, the turf, goes about every 13 years. Then they have to replace it, and that's at a cost of $450,000. So if they don't generate revenue besides the appropriation of the town, then, you know, they would fall short of being able to replace those. So they're hoping to get $97,600 in revenues each year, and then that would make everything work. So it was just a preliminary meeting. It basically laid out what their plans are. They listened to the towns, explained their needs as well, and I think it's just going to be a work in progress in the next month or two. I think they're going to, you know, they're still progressing as though it's approved, but, you know, it still needs the approval of the towns, you know, in order for it to go forward.
Right.
And are they looking at other, I mean, I have no idea, I don't know anything about fields or anything like this, but, you know, the turf versus the natural, what the,
Well, they said that the
Fields.
natural first, because
Just-
that's, you know, there's a low water table there and all this, and it wouldn't be very cost effective. They said to, you know, sometimes they said it would cost more, almost as much, I shouldn't say more, to do a natural because of the maintenance involved, you know, the mowing the lawn and all that, and the fertilizers and stuff. So the pitch, of course, was, you know, to use, you know, to go with the turf, you know, and,
I have
The
other, do other
artificial turf.
schools?
yeah, all
use
the
it?
schools
They're
and-
all
yes.
doing
Driving
it.
the, driving the school bus and taking teams to different locations. Most of the bigger schools all have already, a lot of them have already shifted, have done this. Georgetown is just, I think, they feel might be ready for this football season, but they've shifted over. Newburyport is just shifting over.
Linfield's doing theirs.
Basically, Linfield,
North Reading.
most of the teams are doing it because it's just maintenance-wise, and plus you can use like the real benefit is because now we play soccer, field hockey, what's that one
Lacrosse.
lacrosse. This
The
field will
javelin.
be used for all those things, and you can use the field day in and day out, as well as let little midget football and stuff, because the wear and tear is on a grass field. You got to let it rest. Where this field, and so they're hoping to be able to rent it out to some of these, you know, midget football leagues and stuff. Similar to what we do with the Little League field. They actually lease the fields from the town, but it'll allow intensive use of the fields, and the maintenances will be minimal from, you know, cutting grass and water and flooding, those kinds of issues. So it's really, it's the way everybody's going, whether it's, you know, like you say, if you fall on an artificial field versus falling on the grass, you know, I guess it's been pretty well determined that it's as safe as grass, I guess. I mean, I don't, we're not experts on it, but that's the way everybody's going. And in this way here, our kids, like the track team, for instance, at Triton, the outdoor track team, we have to have all our meets away. We don't have any home meets because we don't have a field. So we have to use Newburyport's, I don't know whose they use.
Well,
But we'll be able to have our own meets, plus if it meets the standards of the MIIA or whatever it is,
Yeah.
then we can actually host regional events, which will be an income producer for us. So there's a big competition out there for it, and this is the time, the school's been, for about the last 3 years, been trying to raise private funds to do it privately, and all the businesses, everybody's tapped out. Everybody, you know, the kids come around looking for, we all know what they go through, looking for donations for this team, that team,
Well,
or
I did
this
raise-
sport, or the band, or whatever. So the businesses have just said, hey, there's only so much we can do, and so that's why they've decided that if we're gonna get this done, and every year you wait,
but I
cost
did,
just keeps going up.
I did make a suggestion on that end, and, you know, because I know there are a few, celebrities,
Well, tell them,
that have.
don't talk to me, talk to them.
Find 'em.
One person that used to be on the Sox 23 years ago that lives in Byfield, so.
Yeah, talk to them, but I mean, it's just a matter of, the cost of going, and that's what the superintendent, when he made his presentation to the selectmen, said that, number one, right now, bonding costs are as low as they're gonna be. And construction costs, I don't know, they go up 10-15% a year, it seems like, so if we can get, if they can get the towns to fund it and get it built, it's just, it's something that, it's gonna have to be done sooner or
As far
later.
as the schedule goes, I don't understand, September 2015. It's a year away. I mean, this can't be approved by the towns until next
Well,
spring.
they're hoping it's
Right.
approved by spring, but then they'll be able to start in the summer, because it's gonna take
So it
about
would be that quick to.
14 weeks, they calculate, so they wanna start it right away.
Right.
If it gets approved, they wanna start it in June, as soon as like the first or second week in June, and then work until, school starts up and have the field ready for September.
So even
That's
the
what the
building.
plan
The
is.
advantage they have is they have the seed money, they got the money from,
Institute
the
facilities,
bank
yeah.
and the donations, so that's what they're gonna use to hire it is like they gotta come to us to hire an engineer. They have that seed money to hire an engineer, get the plans, and so that their goal is, if the three town meetings approve it in May, that they'll have the contract ready to go out to bid as soon as the day after everybody approves it, assuming they do. They can go out to bid and have things ready to go so that they can, like
Jill.
everything else, so they're gonna be ready by September 15th or whatever it is they got there. maybe
They can't
not.
go till July 1st, though.
What?
They can't start till July 1st.
Well, I don't know
They
what
wanna
they got
start
with
in June.
seed.
Well,
They can
they
go
They
out
have
and
to start in June, they
They-
have
If
enough
we
time.
vote at
They
May
can.
town meeting, you don't give them the money until July
I
1st.
know, well, that's what
But
they
you're
said,
saying-
the projections.
They have
is
the
they
seed
need-
money. They
Yeah,
got seed
okay,
money to
I think
start,
that's that, yeah.
and the
Right.
contractor knows they're gonna get their money,
Yeah.
I'll just say in Linfield, they voted, it was $7 million, but it was for other fields as well. And they voted in April, and that, if you go over there now, the field's ready to play on football. They're still working on the baseball fields, but it goes pretty fast once it gets started. And they didn't wait till July. They started, I think, May 1st,
Oh,
somewhere
well,
in that
they
range.
said they have to start no later than June something in order to have it ready, for, that's how much time they need, that's what the
the
engineer
first bills
said,
don't come
you
in
know.
till after July
Yeah.
1st. That's what it boils down to.
What's-
And well, I wanted to mention that the school committee also mentioned that they feel that this would be, because one of the things is right now, Triton is bringing in more students and leaving, and they
That's
don't,
what I
they
was
want
just
that
gonna
trend to
say.
continue. And they think by having a new,
Yeah.
state of the field complex, that will
Oh, it
help
makes a
their
difference, yeah.
cause too,
Yeah,
so.
definitely.
That's
It
what I was
does.
just going to say, because sports are a big factor for a lot of people, and for years, Triton had a deficit.
Yeah.
People were leaving to
Right.
go to other school systems,
Pretty well turned
and it
around
was
now.
costing the district. Now that, I think this year they had a surplus, wasn't it, for the
Yeah, I
first
think
time?
they were pretty near breaking even or a little bit on the surplus.
Which is
so I
great.
don't know,
So-
but yeah, it's definitely turned around from the years when there was all the controversy.
And you
about
probably have
it.
attract even more students from other communities with up-to-date sports
Yeah, you're competing with
facilities.
other communities, school
Exactly.
choice-wise, for kids that want to play on good.
Yep.
And if you read the Newburyport News,
Yeah.
they do an awful lot of stories on it. Some good
Yes.
athletes that have gone and do go to Triton, so it's really, it's a valuable part of the school, as well as you got the band could,
Yeah.
we all know about the band, and
Yep.
the band, this is a great facility for the band to use for their competitions and to practice on and so on. So it's really, all around, it's a good deal if we can convince everyone that
To vote for it.
they come up with the funding for it.
Yeah.
And hopefully at 65,000 a year, we can
Come up with
find the funding without going for an override. If we have to go for an override, it'll really depend on what the overall budget is, but
Right. Okay, any other comments or so? Okay. Thanks, Dennis Peters, for the update. Next item fifth on the schedule, which is number 6, discuss special town meeting. There's a special town meeting on October 27th,
And we're meeting next
Pine
week.
Grove School, right.
next
We're
week we
meeting
should
next
have all the
week.
We should
articles.
have
The
the
warrant
articles
should
and
be,
everything,
Right.
yeah.
because I think the warrant has to go out to print
Right.
probably the end of next week, so it'll be ready. But we just wanted to give you a preview tonight of what to expect, and
Right.
we don't expect anything beyond that unless some emergency develops between now and next week, but
You expecting a good turnout for that meeting?
it's always an issue. Special town meetings are tough.
We hope for 100.
Yeah, we gotta have 100.
have to have
That's the
100.
minimum.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, have a motion,
I say.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Great. We'll see you next week, right?
Yes, next
Yep.
week,
Same time.
7:15.
Dennis, can I see you for a minute?
Yeah, sure.
I think,
There.
okay.